Hey everybody, my name is Stef, and today we're going to talk about AI and how AI can enable the creation of beautiful digital experiences. I'm a Roblox. If you're not familiar with Roblox, it's not a platform just for games, but it's a platform for education, for fashion, for concerts, for communication, and all kind of experience, including simulation of natural disasters. In fact, we have more than 15 million experiences on the platform, and we have over 70 million daily active users. We work very closely with a lot of creators, millions of them, and we distributed just last year over $700 million to them. So this is a little bit of about Roblox and what Roblox is, but more than numbers, I think you will enjoy the video that is about to roll. That will show you a little bit the breadth of experiences that we have on the platform. Enjoy. So we see the role of AI breaking down in three different areas. The first one is really lowering the barrier of entry for creation. People that don't have the technical skills, don't know how to write code, or don't know how to use very complicated 3D tools can now create just by describing with text, natural language, or with a drawing what they want. And AI can really help them create what was their intent. The second aspect is really learning. It's a much better and faster way to learn what you need and what you want than going through endless documents or API documentations. Instead, you can just ask your chatbot, and then the chatbot can pull and retrieve all the right information and can synthesize and summarize it for you. It's a much faster way to learn. And then the third one is that the creation of digital experiences is always full of technical challenges. For example, I need to optimize my scene to run at 60 frames per second on my Android phone. Well, that's not a trivial task to go through all my assets and optimize them. But AI could do that for you and could do many other technical tasks that are not tied to your artistic vision, but they are necessary to deliver a good experience that players can really enjoy. And so we see AI really helping also in that realm because those tasks are things that can be automated. AI can be trained for and can really shine. And so at Roblox, when we try to use AI to enable the creation of digital experiences, we are thinking about two buckets of work that we have to tackle. The first one is the creation of assets and artwork, and the second one is about interactivity and coding. And they require quite different approaches. And so now I'm going to show you a few examples of AI agents that we created that tackle one and the other. So the very first one that we released, this was over a year ago, was Material Generator. The ability is you type some text, you describe a material that you want, and AI can generate for you a fully tileable PBR material that then you can apply to any object that you want. This is usually a task that can take hours or days, and then for most people is actually not accessible because it's actually quite technical, especially when you're trying to create physically based rendering materials that have to bounce the light properly. That becomes quite complicated. It's even more complicated if instead of texturing a flat surface, you're actually texturing a complicated object, like for example, this beautiful leather backpack. And so for that, we had to create a different AI agent called Texture Generator, who can actually look at the geometry and create a texture that is really custom for that geometry. And so, for example, you see here all the leather wrinkles around the pocket. Those are very specific to that area, or the lines of the stitching. And so it actually requires more understanding, more contextual understanding of the geometry to create the right texture. And that becomes a task that normally takes probably like a day or two. And again, for the 99+% of people, it's just not accessible. And so these were the first two features that we rolled out for the creation of artwork. But an even more complicated type of asset is actually avatars. Avatars are so important for the Roblox platform, but not only that, they are so important for self-expression. Players can spend days just dressing them up, customizing them, the skin color, the eye color, the hairstyle, all those things. But ultimately, those avatars, they need to run, they need to emote, they need to be able to smile, to shrug, and to talk. And doing that is basically requires a task that is called rigging. So we are basically placing bones on the body, bones on the face, so that the mesh, which is the equivalent of our skin, can move. And so that took quite a bit of AI and a quite extensive training set to do, because there's all kinds of variations for avatars, and we just wanted creators to not have to think about it, just be able to upload a mesh and maybe a texture, and then get that avatar to come to life. And that was our dream, and that's what we delivered early this year. On the other side of the world stands coders and developers. Usually they get the artwork created by someone else. Sometimes they create it as well now with AI, but then they are focusing on interactivity. So here I'm going to show you a couple of examples of what that means. So here's a game that was entirely created with Assistant, where the creator wanted to create this like enemy that is chasing the player and is shooting this blue neon ray. And so all I had to do was to create that prompt, and then AI created the script, but not only that, found the right object in the scene, this monster, and then attached that script to the monster in the scene graph. Because we found that it's not just about writing the code, but it's really understanding where the code needs to go. And sometimes it's attached to an object, sometimes it goes into a service, and sometimes it's just UI, so it's not attached to anything. So all those, we had to like create a training set to allow AI to understand where the code was gonna go. And then when this is successful, it creates this fully interactive monster that is chasing our player with a very, very terrible outcome at the end when he gets hit by the laser. But code is not just used for interactivity. It can also be used to do layout. For example, here I have a game where I want to have a forest in the middle of it. And a forest is usually made by hundreds of trees. And I will spend probably the full afternoon just placing 100 trees around in a way that's like randomized enough that feels like a naturally generated organic forest. Instead, Assistant can do for you. It can, upon request, generate code that will go through the scene graph, will identify all the trees that I want to move or modify, and then it will just place them. I can also change the size, the color, and do all those very tedious tasks that otherwise will take hours and hours. I love someone said on Twitter, I love that sentence, I want AI to wash my dishes so that I can do art, as opposed to the other way around. And I think this is a brilliant way to look at it. We want AI to really take care of the most tedious tasks and take intent and then convert it into actual scene, as opposed to coming up with the art itself. We want to leave the art to the artist and the creator, but we want our AI assistant to basically clean up the house and all the dirty dishes for him or her. And so now the question is, with all this AI buzz happening and with all those startups coming up every day and new algorithms and new papers and new capabilities, what should we build, right? What should every company on the planet that is invested in AI build on a daily basis? Well, the largest companies are actually building foundational models. But again, those require like a really large investments, and it's not the majority of the companies out there, of course, they can afford it. But if I'm not building a foundational model, how can I build value on top of AI? Well, we have two very simple, no, they're not simple, but it's a very short list of two. It's either data or evaluation frameworks. Those are two things that no matter what ML model you're using or you will use in the future, if you build incredible data sets and an evaluation framework that can tell you if your new ML model or your new training set is actually improving the result for your customers, those two things will take you very far. And we saw it, in our own experience. We swap out sometimes the ML model on a daily basis, and then we are able to run like hundreds of evaluations in use cases that are very aligned to what our creators want, and then we will know if our new model has improved things or not. And at that point, if we see a significant improvement, let's say 10%, this is 10% better, and maybe it's even faster, then we can roll it out in production to, let's say, 5% of our audience. Then we can really measure in production the difference between the previous model and the new one, and then make a decision to potentially roll it out to everybody. And so the evaluation framework is providing to you the early sign, the early signal that you're on the right path, that this is like a promising algorithm. It's not something super quick to build because over time your AI becomes more capable, and so the evaluation framework has to grow with it, has to naturally become more articulated. It's a little bit like you're going to school, and of course the test that you do on first grade is very different than the test you do for graduation. So as AI becomes more capable, you want to evolve your evaluation framework so it can do more things, it can test for more things, it can really capture more complicated workflows that you want to expose to your customers. On the data, I would say that there are many approaches to really create a beautiful data set, and usually the winning ones are basically using a blend of a lot of different approaches. We want to do some supervised learning where the data is like perfect and pristine and can also be used inside your evaluation framework. But sometimes you need to augment that with unsupervised training data, and then also you want to use synthetic data. We have used also a lot of that. Synthetic data can help making sure that the data set is balanced and fully representative of the problems you want to tackle. So I think that is quite important. The last thing I want to tackle is what is going to be, I believe, one of the biggest challenges in the future months. I think the speed at which AI is moving, things are no longer measured in years, it's like months or weeks. So I'm going to say months. I think within months this will be solved. And what I was referring to at the beginning is agentic workflows. So the number of AI capabilities is increasing over time. When we started this journey in generative AI at Roblox, we only had like material generator. That was the first thing we put together, and then code assist came right after. So those two were we had two agents. They were capable of something pretty well defined, and it was easy to know, given a prompt, if the user wanted to create a material or generate more code. That was pretty obvious. But now that we have a material generator and we have a texture generator, there's already some distinction there where, okay, is the user wanting to create like tileable materials, or does he have a 3D object that he's trying to texture, right? So that will basically, the same request could be routed to two very different agents that will give also a very different output. And so in order to understand that, we have to support basically agentic workflows. Imagine having dozens and dozens of AI capabilities that we have trained over the years, and now the task that AI could tackle can become really broader, can have broader context, and can mix a bunch of those AI capabilities. But it's really hard, and at the moment I can tell you, like, I have not seen a single company out there coming out with a solution that really works, because it's really hard to route the task when it's not just one atomic task that can be taken care of by one agent. And so I give you here a simple example. I want to add into my game a red balloon that the player can grab and use to fly. Very simple, one-liner. This will involve at least 4 different AI agents. First, I have to create the balloon model. Then I have to texture it of the color that I want. Then once that is done, I have to hook up physics because the balloon needs to lift the player. So I need to know that all this volume is filled with like helium, it's lighter than air, and so the balloon will create a lift force, vertical. This is, of course, all part of the Roblox physics engine, but I still have to define that those properties are there for the balloon. And then once all this is done, I have to kick it off to an agent that can create some code so that can detect when the player gets nearby, can attach the balloon to the player hand, and then at that point can start generating that lift force. And then if the balloon is big enough, the player can fly. And so this gives you an example not only of how many tasks there are, but the fact that they are dependent on the output of the previous one. If the physics is not properly hooked up, my script won't do anything. If I don't have a 3D model, there's nothing I can texture. And so the Agentic orchestrator not only needs to route the subtask properly, but also needs to check that the output from each agent is actually working and it's proper for the next agent to pick it up. And so this, I feel, it's a really hard problem. The training set also don't exist. That's the other problem. So if I am creating a new agent and I want to make it part of what my Agentic orchestrator can do, well, at that point, it's a new agent. So I don't have any training set to tell my orchestrator how to use it, right? And so there are a lot of these like chicken and egg problems that are coming up. And I think the world is work to try to solve it. And I'm confident it's not going to take a very long time. And I think I will predict that will be one of the massive unlocks for AI, where when all of a sudden, basically AI will be able to switch context and really understand more complex and deep tasks that right now only humans can do. All right, I think this is it. Thank you everybody for your attention and have a great day.